educator and consultant to the accounting industry. I'm a firm believer in shaking things up with technology, and I've spent about 25 years in the industry. Huge fan of social media and how it can help accounting firms grow. And for the record, I've spent most of my adult career in the accounting industry pushing for change internally. It's been in the last 5 years where I've decided to go on my own and really try to change the industry, working with the leading accounting firms in North America. For the record, I am Canadian, but everything I teach is country independent. We're not, talking about how to do an accounting file. We're not talking about tax returns. We're talking specifically about how you can treat your accounting firm like a business and how you can run it like a business. So my concept that I teach is called the 8 Pillars for Exponential Business Growth. And we're going to do several webinars with Tad, 8 to be exact. And what we're going to cover is each of the pillars in detail. So today we're going to talk about operational efficiency. Next session we'll talk about marketing and networking. We're going to talk about sales as a relationship building tool. We're going to talk about why you should develop a niche and how you can do it. We'll talk about pricing models, in particular fixed price agreements, value pricing. I'll share some technology specific to running a firm. In a separate session. Of course, each pillar will talk about the best technology as we go. Then we'll talk about value-added services that we can offer to increase our revenues from existing clients. And then we wrap it up with practice management, and that's goal setting and measuring key performance indicators. So as I said, today we're talking about Pillar 1, operational efficiency. And what we're going to do is we'll start with how do we digitize data, because I think realistically, if we don't go paperless or we don't help our clients go paperless, we're forever stuck in this struggle. I'll share a real-life example of a business that has gone paperless. I'll talk about some accounting firms as well. I picked a real-life business outside of accounting specifically because the dollar savings were huge, but more importantly, I think the company is very parallel to what we do, and therefore it's a good example. We'll talk about the project management mindset, so how we manage the work that we do. We'll talk about automating our workflow, making sure we're doing things consistent time and time again. I'll share some system documentation tools, because if we have best practices, we want to make sure we document them. And how do we share them? And then last but not least, I'll talk a little bit about staffing alternatives, because I know a lot of accounting firms, biggest issue they have is finding staff. And again, if there's questions throughout, just type them in the chat box and Tad will either interrupt me or let me go through, and then he'll stop me before we go on to the next slide. Now, one thing, Tad, I just realized I don't have the polling questions in my slides. Do you have those?
I do. They are ready to go. So just let me know, or I'll interrupt every so often.
Yeah, interrupt me every so often and just launch a polling question. Maybe at the end of, I'll let you know, or you interrupt me if I go too long and forget.
Okay.
And my plan for today is we'll wrap up right at the 10:02 mark. So you'll earn your hour of CPE, but what we'll do is we'll leave 10 minutes at the end where we can let people ask their questions. Again, if you have questions now, feel free to ask away, but we'll just make sure the last little bit we've got time so nobody has unanswered questions. Okay. So digitization of data, I'll be honest, as an accountant, this didn't come easy to me. I kind of struggled with it. And when I first went paperless, it was kind of a awkward thing. And, the reality is we have to learn how to work in a paperless environment. And we also have to learn why we should work in a paperless environment. And so I had the good fortune, a friend of mine runs a company called Tersa Group, and we'll talk about them in the example, but they're an IT company. They provide virtual support or remote support for professionals. And for them, they had a lot of internal paper. What they did is they stepped aside, they used some IT minds, and they came up with a process, and I'm borrowing from them, but they have a 5-step process where literally they come in, they'll take any business they work with paperless, and usually it takes a lot less time than most people think. And the key thing is, are we looking at, when we go paperless, and I use that in quotes, are we going paperless from today forward, or do we want to digitize our past data as well? Most firms that I see really succeeding at this, they pick a date and they say, as of this date, we're going to scan everything, we're going to go paperless. And then what they do is they keep their paper files, and when they have downtime, or if they have an intern or somebody who's not busy, then they'll back scan and scan the historical. But the important thing is picking a time and starting. So the reason it's important, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on paperless in this section, because the reality is going paperless is the only way we can really see significant leaps forward in efficiency. I'll be so bold as to say that going paperless gives us that quantum leap forward that otherwise we wouldn't be able to get to in our business. So absolutely critical. And getting rid of and dealing with our paper is one thing. The reality is we also deal with clients who bring a lot of paper of their own. Now, the challenge with clients and paper is, of course, we've got to manage a lot of paper. The key to success with digitization of data is find tools and methods where we can help eliminate client paper. And the reason for that, twofold. Number one, we can make our clients more efficient. They're going to be much happier with us. They're going to have a lot easier time getting information to us. So it's very self-serving. We're going to get information on a timely basis. The other thing is, if we help them go paperless, it's going to build an enormous amount of goodwill, which ensures that they're going to come back to us year after year after year. And if we set the tone and we give them the tools that we want to work with, that will help immensely, because it'll make us more efficient if we have a standard process for dealing with the clients. So again, this is very self-serving, but the reality is we need to be paperless. We need our clients to be paperless. There's really no way forward in this digital age if we're going to stick to paper. So again, when people come to me and say, I want to be more efficient, how can I do it? I always say, start with getting rid of the paper. Most accountants will say, how else can I do it? And I say, start with getting rid of the paper. So there's two options there. Both of them are start with getting rid of the paper. Again, you might be in a specialty situation. I've yet to encounter a firm that couldn't go paperless. And I will say many of the top producing firms, the most profitable, the most successful, the ones with the most loyal clients, if you look at their back end, most of them are paperless. And as a bonus, you can actually do paperless consulting with your clients, and you can hire an admin person to do it, but you can help your clients go paperless. You might as well get paid in the process. So what is that process? We're going to cover this in some detail, but it's 5 steps. So we want to digitize data. We want to document systems and processes. This is essential because we want to train our staff and our clients. We want things done consistently. We're going to look at some cloud services we can implement. Outsourcing, not a dirty word. It could be things like hiring a lawyer to do your legal work, hiring an IT company to do your IT, using a subcontractor to do bookkeeping. But we're looking at what tasks can we get off the plates of our professional people so that they can be more efficient, more flexible, give better service to the clients. And a little bit of a bonus, we're going to talk about telecommuting as a strategic initiative, and it's a great way to recruit and retain quality staff. With telecommuting, you can literally hire the best person for the job regardless of where they live. So let's jump in. We'll talk about digitizing data. And again, this section is probably half of today, and the reason for this being so important, it's the only way we can make that quantum leap forward. So I want you to think about that throughout the presentation. And if I'm not paperless, how can I be? So the key in all of this is managing paper. So true, it's not quite paperless. Maybe it's less paper. But the first thing we want to do is manage the paper that we accept. So the reality is, when it comes to our paper, when we receive paper, we've got to deal with it. We've got to figure out, how are we going to keep it? How do we, digitize it? With client paper, if it comes into our office, it's our problem. So we've got to think about ways we can get digital copies of stuff without having to scan, take pictures, things like that. So some of the options, and we'll cover a few, there's a whole bunch more out there, but these are just sort of my favorites. The easiest way to reduce paper, I know a lot of accounting firms still have fax machines and they receive faxes. An easy way to do that is to get a fax to email service. And all you have to do is go online. You can look, just do Google search, fax to email. There's tons of them out there. And what that does is it takes that old physical fax machine and replaces it with an email service. So they receive the fax and they send you the email. They're much more secure than a traditional fax machine, and you can have user access and passwords. The other thing that you want to do is, wherever possible, get your clients to sign up for digital documents. So for example, if they go to Best Buy is probably one I see the most, they'll send you a backup copy of your invoice or receipt by email. So get the clients in the habit of doing that. And best practices for that is to have a separate email account strictly for receiving documents. Most of my clients, they'll call it accounting@mybusiness.com, or whatever, insert your business name there, domain. But basically what that does is, whenever they go somewhere, if somebody says, can I email you a receipt, they make a habit of giving that email address. And what they can do then is, it's a private inbox only for the accounting people. So you can give access to your bookkeeper, access to your accountant, access to your internal people. So that's probably the easiest, best step. The next thing is to get a good scanner. I'm a big fan of the Fujitsu ScanSnap. My personal favorite is the IX500. And basically it's just a good quality little desktop scanner, somewhere around $500. And what I recommend is, if you've got clients that have any volume of paper, get them a scanner. Charge, again, if you're doing your paperless consulting, charge enough to cover the cost of that scanner, but make sure that they have a good scanner on site. That's the best scenario. Next best scenario is, you have the scanner in your office, and the minute the client drops paper off, you've got somebody whose job is to digitize those documents immediately. Again, I think a ScanSnap, a lot of accounting firms I'm working with, they've got one on every desk now. So it's just having access to a scanner. It's got to be something that's quick and easy, and you want to make it readily available. But again, I push it out to the clients wherever possible. The next best thing, so if you have a client with low volume, so think of those small contractors, maybe they're builders, trades, realtors. They might have a few random receipts, typically lunch, coffee, those small little credit card receipts. You can just take pictures with your smartphone, and usually you can get a good enough quality image that it's something you can digitize. Now, the rule of thumb I've been given is, if you're doing more than about 20,000 pages a year, it's better to have an external service do it. So the one I highly recommend, and honestly, I tell a lot of accountants and bookkeepers in Canada, if you want to really be efficient, move to the American market because you guys have shoebox.com. Technically, we can access it in Canada, but a lot of the value of Shoeboxed, in my opinion, and I think it ties well with bills.com as well, but what Shoebox does is you've got magic envelopes in the US. You get your client weekly, monthly, whatever it is. They put all their paper in a magic envelope, drop it in the mail. It goes to Shoebox facility in, I think, North Carolina. They'll do the scanning for you. And they guarantee they actually have every image physically inspected by a person, so they're confirming and verifying. They guarantee the best quality image possible. And then what they do is they'll give you an export. So you get a PDF of the original document, but you also get, I think it's, last time I checked, it was in CSV format, but a list of, they extract a lot of the data so you can actually take it right into Excel and from there export it or import it into your favorite accounting software. And the way they are set up, they have an agreement with the IRS, so they meet the rules of evidence requirements. So it's a one-way ticket. The paper gets scanned, verified, and then shredded. So great way to go paperless. Let a professional do it. And I believe last time I checked, the pricing was about 10 cents an image. If you're cutting out data entry time, incredibly valuable. If you're reducing the time spent chasing paper, incredibly valuable. Now, HubDoc is a Canadian company, but they're North America wide, and I think they're in Australia, New Zealand as well. HubDoc does the go fetch part of accounting. So you can set up certain vendors, utilities, banks, credit cards, and what HubDoc will do, they'll go out, they'll aggregate data for you, so they'll get bank statements, credit card statements, utility bills. If a client has the smartphone app, they can upload documents to HubDoc. So HubDoc sort of starts as that portal where you can access all of the client records. And again, it's really reasonable. Its real value is once it fetches the documents, it does optical character recognition and helps you automate data entry into services like QuickBooks Online, for example. And for this, I'll switch and I'll talk about Receipt Bank. HubDoc and Receipt Bank both do character recognition. Receipt Bank doesn't have the fetch feature. So the two of them, they'll do character recognition. And literally what I'm seeing, a lot of accounting firms are taking on the full bookkeeping and accounting function. And what they're doing is they're using automated rules, bank feeds, the artificial intelligence in HubDoc and Receipt Bank. And what they're doing is they're able to automatically enter 90%, give or take, of transactions into online accounting software like QuickBooks Online. Xero is another service. And a lot of accountants tell me, Jeff, bookkeeping's beneath me. I don't want to do this. What I would argue, and again, we're talking operational efficiency, when I work with small business clients, and if I'm not engaged in their bookkeeping, usually at the end of the year, I'm getting a surprise and a mess to clean up. If you're in control of the bookkeeping, it allows you to do some value-added services like have quarterly updates. You can review results monthly. You can sell management reporting. So to me, bad bookkeeping equals bad accounting. Bad accounting leads to bad decisions. If we can ensure that the bookkeeping is done right from the start, and again, accounting firms, we don't always have to do it, but we should be in control. So, subcontracting to a good bookkeeping company, for example. So that is the easiest way to digitize your data and some basic steps. Now, once we do this, the key...
Jeff, Jeff,
Yes.
sorry about that. I think it's time for a poll.
All right, launch away.
Okay. Launch the poll. If everyone take a few seconds, so we'll get by this and get back to the presentation. Are you paperless? We've got about 40 people here, so about half of you. Ooh, 3/4 have voted. Excellent. Keep going, gang. Another few seconds. We are not grading these. These have nothing to do with you getting your certificate of completion or your CPE. This is just a requirement of NASBA. They want us to do this to make sure that people are sitting at their PC. So we'll give it another 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'll share the results. 21% not at all. 44% are working on it and struggling. 15% are undergoing a smooth transition, and 18, almost 20%, almost a fifth, have done it completely. So super.
Excellent. Thank you, Tad. And, you know, that brings up a great metric that about 1 in 5 of you has figured it out and gone paperless. Not asking you to share, but I'm going to guess that those 1 in 5 work fewer hours, or they have the option to. I'm also going to guess that they're less stressed chasing paper, and they're probably more profitable. And I would also guess that they have much better client retention. Now, not saying paper is somehow evil, but if the shoe fits, it fits. Paper honestly gets in the way of us doing what we do best. And again, I don't want to turn us into mindless robots, processing paper without thinking about it. What I would argue is machines, and computers in particular, are really good at rapidly sorting and filtering information. So if it gets, if you're using QuickBooks Online, it will remember and learn. So if you have a receipt and every time they see that receipt for Best Buy, it's being coded to computer equipment, the system learns that. And going forward, what it'll do is it'll start to suggest, hey, I noticed you got a receipt for Best Buy. Do you want to record it to computer equipment? And then eventually you can just tell it to automatically do that. And then if there's something exceptional, you go in and check it. So the key to being paperless is we should be focusing on that 10% really unique stuff, letting the machines and the computers handle the 90% that's repetitive. And I just want to stress that a lot of accountants tell me, no, everything about my clients is unique. The reality is we're all creatures of habit. And what I want you to do is just think for a minute about how your day goes. You wake up in the morning. I'm guessing you go to the same gym if you go to the gym in the morning. If you need gas, I'm guessing you go to the same gas station. If you need your morning fix of coffee, I'm going to guess you go to the same coffee shop or place near your house. But the reality is most of our life revolves around where we work and where we live. So, when I ran a accounting firm, all of my client lunches were at the restaurant next to the office because it was easy for me. So the reality is if you look at people's books, most small, medium-sized businesses, and especially large businesses, they do a lot of volume, but with the same vendors. So the key to that is that sort of thing can be automated because it's repetitive. Now, if there's a one-off, somebody takes a side trip to Vegas, that receipt's going to come up as an anomaly. We're going to have to decide what to do with that. So that's a big piece. Now, what I stress, and I do have an in-depth course I go through, systems and processes are the key to all that we do. Again, if we don't train our clients, we have a choice. We can either have one system, we train our clients how to use it, they will behave accordingly. If we don't set a system in place, we default to the client's system, the client's way of doing things, which in my experience is chaos. And I'm not picking on clients, it's just they don't know how to run an accounting practice, so they don't know what we need, they don't know when we need it, they don't know the best practices. So we can either have our one system that everybody follows and everybody's happy, or we can fight fires continuously, and if we've got 100 clients, we're going to end up with 100 different ways of doing things. So what I like to do, once I've figured out what my best practices are, and it's really simple, just sit down and think about how work flows through your office. So start with what it looks like from a prospect point of view. How do you market to them? How do you reach them? How does that client person come from prospect to client into the firm? And then once they're client, how does their work flow through the firm? And what I suggest is document it as is, and then think about the bottlenecks. So, if you guys want to just type into the chat box, what are the big bottlenecks in your firm? I'll make sure I cover some of them. But once you identify the bottlenecks, then you can start to focus on best practices. And again, most accounting firms I know, they don't need a major overhaul, just a minor. Usually they get 80, 90% right, but 20% that they get wrong causes a lot of pain. So what we want to do is use something to create short videos for each system or process. And again, you can do some mind mapping software, you can plan it out. Personally, I use something called BB Flashback, and it's just screen recording software. I'll share a link here. And I know a lot of people like to use Camtasia. I personally like BB Flashback. And what I like in particular, if you're doing this internally, you've got a lot of staff, they have their BB Flashback Express, which is free, and you can use it on as many computers as you want. If you're doing commercial video, then you might want to look at a paid version because it's got better, so their Pro has better editing functionality. And again, I get nothing out of this. I believe the Pro version, last time I checked, was somewhere around $200. Oh, look at that. So they brought their prices down. So the Enterprise is $99. You can't go wrong for that. And again, it's a great little tool to record. So let's say you've got a staff member who's working on, setting up HubDoc. What you do is you give them a headset and you let them record what's happening on the screen. Again, it's great. You can share your videos with the staff. But what I really like is you can take this the next step. Let's say we want to train our clients. So here's how you access HubDoc. Here's how you access Receipt Bank, QuickBooks Online. What you can do is set up a YouTube channel, and you can share your training videos with clients, with staff. You can make them private. You can make them public. But what it does is it saves you having, my advice to people is if you ever have a repetitive conversation, document it in a video, get it transcribed so you've got a transcript of it, and then you can easily do things consistently every time. You can share it with a video, so instead of telling somebody over and over how to do something, they can go watch the video. And the important thing is you want to leverage this documentation, making sure that every staff member is doing things consistently. I'm not an advocate for their food, but I'm a huge fan of the fast food industry because everything is done and broken down to the unique little steps so that regardless of experience, somebody can come in, be trained for an hour or two, and repeat those steps. So where do we store documents? What are our naming conventions? How do we get information from clients? We want to document all of that and put it in a format. Again, what I suggest is start with where you are today and then think about where you want to be. So what are your bottlenecks? What's the pain? And I'm just checking. I don't see any bottlenecks being typed in, but if you've got bottlenecks, by all means, please share.
Oh, hey, Jeff. I saw
Yes.
one come in. It's just a panelist. That's why it's not up there.
Oh, okay.
Basically comes down to phone and email.
Okay. And is it getting back to clients? Is that the bottleneck?
Getting back, interrupting, changing my schedule.
Okay. So that is good news. That can be solved. The technology, believe it or not, I borrow a lot from the IT industry. One of the best ways you can eliminate a lot of emails and phone calls is by training your clients up front. So here's what information we need. Having templates, you know, if you're calling them or requesting information for year end, have a template saying here's what we need, here's what we are hoping to do. Most of it comes down to training. The other piece, a lot of IT companies, and I'm really starting to see a lot of accounting firms adopt this. They have what's called ticketing options, help desk. And let me just share with you. This is slightly off topic, but very, very important. Again, a lot of the stuff I'm showing you, it's stuff I've used and I love, and that's why I'm sharing it. I get nothing for any of this. Freshdesk is a really good tool. I'm seeing a lot of accounting firms implementing it, but what it does is if, you know, at 2 in the morning somebody's got an accounting question, rather than waiting to the morning to call you, they can key it into a help desk system. And what that does is it allows you to track, you know, what kind of questions we're getting. And when you get a lot of the same question over and over again, that's a great question to be dealt with in a video.
And Jeff, hey, I want to interrupt right here and just let everybody know, if they hadn't realized it, but that's what we use at CPE Think. And,
oh, there you go.
And I don't get anything off of this. I just think their support is excellent. They're a really good company. Their software works. It's not real buggy. You can use it on multiple devices simultaneously. And you can add and remove users very, very easily. So I mean, it's a really good tool. It's the best one out there for the price that you pay. And usually, I think you can start at like $20 a month. So it's really, really affordable.
Yeah, and so again, one of the things that I better stress right now, I will correct Ted, you can actually start out for free. So you really can't beat free as a price. I think it might only be for 1 or 2 users. Now, one thing I want to point out, because we are talking about operational efficiency, some people say, well, that's pretty cold and callous of you, Jeff. You know, you eliminate the client contact. I want to say up front, no, that's not true. The goal in everything I do is to automate the repetitive stuff so that we can focus on the important issues, so that we are free to answer, you know, instead of answering 100 phone calls, when's my tax return due, or when can I get this, or, you know, do you have all the information you need? I would rather have a long leisurely lunch with a client and talk about the future of their business, their goals for growth. So the idea, and I want to stress this, everything I talk about, everything I do focuses on building better client relationships and using technology as the bridge to make that happen. I say that because one firm I worked with, they were very proud. They implemented all kinds of amazing technology, including Freshdesk, and they said, you know, it's great. We don't talk to our clients ever. We have all this free time. And I'm like, how do your clients feel about that? Well, we lost 30% in the last 6 months. You don't want to just go to technology and say, stop calling me. But the idea would be, you know, educate clients. I give out a spreadsheet every year. Here's your key deadlines coming up. You know, automate the email saying, hey, we're looking for this information. Again, there's some great tools out there to automate and manage workflow, and I honestly couldn't give them justice here. But for example, Jetpack is something, Jetpack Workflow. They provide workflow task tracking management for accounting firms. And as you can see, they've tracked over almost 4 million jobs and tasks in over 15 countries. So the key is automating the repetitive nagging stuff, the quick question stuff, because that is really the biggest challenge in an accounting firm. It's not the fact that you got 100 emails, it's the fact that you have 100 emails, maybe 10% are important, and you have to wade through each and every one of them in order to get to that 10 that are important. Again, one of my favorite tools for dealing with inbox clutter is a product called SaneBox. And what SaneBox does is it filters your emails, and depending on your last interactions with the individual sending you an email, it can defer it to a later box. It can put it in a spam box. It'll archive it. So things like if you get monthly newsletters, it puts all of those in one place, so it's not mixed in with your current client emails and things like that. So. Like I said, I'll share some random technology things. The biggest challenge usually is in phone calls, and I would argue there that what you need is you need to have a system in place so that the minutia is dealt with by the appropriate staff level, because the managing partner of the firm should never be the one answering a question, how long until my taxes are done, or things like that. So the key is answering client questions. And again, I love the videos and stuff. If you can answer client questions up front, part of your onboarding process, give them a guide, documents, deadlines. The more you can answer questions up front, the fewer questions you'll get during the year. So I'm going to move on, but we'll leave some time at the end for question and answer. So the rest of this is actually pretty quick, all very important, but it's either you do it or you don't. It's not debatable. So the next step is starting to look at cloud-based services. A lot of people don't know this, but QuickBooks, Intuit has a program for accountants. It's called QuickBooks Online Accountant, and accounting professionals, bookkeepers, accountants actually get a free full-service version of QuickBooks Online that they can use to run their own firm. And the reason they give it to you for free is they want you to get used to it, they want you to be comfortable with it, they want you to recommend it to your clients. So one of the things I stress to people, the days where we're one-stop shop and we can support everything, those days are gone. We now have so many technology choices. What I strongly suggest is every firm picks one software platform that works for them, and you become experts in that platform. The reason for that is there's literally dozens of platforms out there, and when you add the add-ons and the plugins and the extras, you could literally have thousands of different combinations. What I suggest is take a look at your firm, create a plan, and start looking at cloud solutions that can really help you build a more efficient firm. And one of my favorite tools, Ted, should I just put I'm just going to put all of these in the chat function.
Sure.
Okay. Capterra is my absolute favorite resource. And what it is, it's a software ranking site. And what you can do is just type in what problem you're trying to solve, and they'll give you categories, and they'll share with you their top picks. So you can see here's a bunch of options. You can see the reviews, you can look at the profile, it gives you links to websites. So if you're looking at improving operations in your firm, Capterra is my go-to site, and I strongly recommend you start there. The key to this, if we're looking at cloud-based services, we can be more portable, flexible, and we can eliminate a lot of those extra costs of running a server. A lot of firms I know are now going over to Google Drive, for example. You can get your own private cloud hosting through Google or Amazon. But the key is flexibility, reliability, and most importantly, you're reducing costs. Okay, now I get a lot of pushback when I say the word outsource. I think it's a four-letter word in the accounting world. But what I'm saying is a lot of accountants I know, the managing partner doubles as the HR person, doubles as the IT consultant, wears a lot of hats. What I'm saying is take a look at your day, and if you're getting a lot of phone calls and emails, think about what can be pushed down to somebody else. So I say external consultants, but this should be pushing it down from the top to the bottom in a firm. So we're looking at the tasks. We want to segregate them. Who else could do this better? And the reason we want to do that is it makes the firm scalable.
Hey,
and now,
Jeff,
yes.
let me interrupt you right here before you go too far in outsourcing. Let me do the polling question on the platform.
Okay.
Okay. Are you leveraging the cloud in your practice? Please take a few seconds and let us know. Again, these are not graded. They're not scored. They're just so that we comply with the AICPA and NASDA guidelines on the group live internet. Okay, 32 out of 40. Getting close to 35. There we go, 35. Okay, let's give it another 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'll end the poll. Share the results. Okay, not at all is 23%, about a quarter. Interested, not knowing where to start, it's about 17. Exploring options, same thing, 17. Starting to migrate, 37%. Well done. 100% cloud-based, 3%. Good job. Okay, I'm going to give it back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Tad. So we're starting to see more progress, and I get a lot of pushback. People don't want to be in the cloud. The reality is there's a lot of security issues, but having said that, I would take the security of the worst cloud provider out there over the security of the most advanced accounting firms I've seen. And the reason for that is just pure specialty. The cloud providers, they operate in data warehouses. They have specialists maintaining their equipment. Most accounting firms in the small to mid-size, they tend to have a local expert that they use who may or may not be a security person. Okay, so let's get through outsourcing. And again, this is all about systems, processes, but the idea is we don't want expensive staff, and the big firms have figured this out. We don't want the expensive staff performing admin functions. Again, we don't want a high-paid accountant doing scanning, for example. So the key is we're looking at our systems and processes and saying, who else could do this better? Now, I'm going to talk about telecommuting very quickly. We'll skip over that. But the reality is telecommuting is a great opportunity to hire, and I'm seeing a lot of 100% cloud-based firms being very successful with recruiting because they're able to hire the best person regardless of where they are. So, for example, I know a company, they've got a designated accountant. She's a Canadian accountant. She happens to be living in South America. She works for a large publicly traded company, and they pay her less because she lives down there. But the great thing is, I looked at this personally. For me, I want to take vacations. If a fire comes up, I want to deal with it, go back to vacation. So I looked at how I could be portable. And again, the technology is out there. You can get digital phones, things like that. I use Zoom for a lot of my internal communication, Skype. But the great thing is with the tools we have, you can do screen sharing. We can do educational sessions. I'll share Zoom very quickly because I think it's absolutely important. It's a great communication tool because you can do online meetings, you can share screens, things like that. And they actually have a free version, but the most common platform, it costs $15 a month. So you can do screen sharing, you can do recording, you can do video conferencing. Great tool to have just to collaborate with your team and your clients. So I promised an example. Geeks on the Way, it now is Chursa Group. At their peak, they had 70 staff, 31 locations, and about 39,000 unique customers. They did a little research. On average, it took 20 minutes to find a document. It took so many man hours to manage the documents, and basically by eliminating paper, they eliminated some extra storage space, they eliminated a file room, they eliminated a couple of redundant positions. In their case, they saved, I think it was around $200,000–300,000 a year by eliminating paper. And again, they focused on doing this for all their clients, which made their clients more efficient, helping each other work together. So definitely there's dollars to be saved. Now, project management, again, I'm just introducing this. I want to make sure you got some ideas to carry forward. But the idea is, look at managing your firm from a project management point of view. I know most larger firms do a full plan for audit, for example, but think about how you can break your tasks into projects. So you want to have the planning phase, which is, conception, definition, and planning. So you're really outlining what you're going to do. Then you've got the phase where you actually do the work. And then you've got quality control. And always at the end say, how could we have done this better? So for some reason, most accountants I know don't think of what they do as project management. They try to treat everything as unique. So what I'm saying is just look for the commonalities and then figure out how to manage. And again, 80% of what we do should fall under some sort of project management. And I just want to share 3 tools. I'm a huge fan of Pro Workflow. It's actual project management software. So when I work with a firm to help them set up their systems and processes, we actually create a project and we break down their workflow into steps. And then we have a project manager who's responsible for ensuring that the steps get documented. Zoho CRM has some tasks built in, so you can use it like a project management tool. And Asana is, they call it collaboration without the inbox. So it gets a lot of those to-do items out of your inbox. Great tool for managing client deadlines, client files, client reminders. And I can't remember their pricing, but last time I checked, it was free for the first 10 or 30 users. So it's worth checking out. Pro Workflow is paid. I think it's $20 a user. Zoho CRM, there's a free up to 3 users, I think. So really, there's no reason to not use these. So when it comes to workflow, I'm all about automation, and I'm going to wrap up very quickly, and then we'll have questions. So if you have your questions, get them ready, type them in, and then I'll deal with them. And Tad, you can do the last polling question after this slide, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so workflow automation, all I'm asking you to do is think about what your steps are in your workflow, what is your client deliverable, and how can you put that into a consistent process. And the important thing is we don't want to miss client deadlines, so we want to make sure our process involves tracking deadlines, chasing clients for missing information, etc. So the key is look at your firm as one whole complete thing and think about each client as a small component. Make sure that 99% of what you do is automated so that you've got room for those last little glitches and bugs. So some of my favorite tools, Tad, you can launch the poll.
Okay, sorry about that. I wouldn't watch it. Okay.
No problem.
Outsourcing. Do you currently use outsourcing? No, not at all. No interest. Local only. Testing. Completely outsourced. If everyone would take a few seconds and answer this, this will be the last poll that we asked today. Okay, almost 35. We'll give it another 3, 4, 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, end the poll. Share the results. Not at all, 17%. No interest, 25%. Local contractors only, 33%. Testing is 14% and completely outsourced, 6%. So back to you, Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you. It's good to see the numbers are up. And, you know, the reality is a lot of people have horror stories about outsourcing. 20 years ago, it was just not practical. But today, in this day and age, with technology, with videos, video conferencing, it's actually becoming easier and a lot cheaper to do outsourcing. So these are some of my favorite tools. We've already talked about BB Flashback, Pro Workflow. Xmind is just mind mapping software, and what that does is it allows you to visually put together, here's how things connect. It's a great tool to create, say, an outline before you get into it. Client Track is more of a practice management, 17 hats. It's a great tool for small firms. You know, basically you can do client engagements, things like that. So just look at the way your work flows, and there's some great tools out there to document it. So as I said earlier, document how you currently do things. Think about your bottlenecks. I don't see any bottlenecks in the chat box. And then once you've got the bottlenecks, start to brainstorm how you can clear up those bottlenecks. And one of the things I do, and we'll talk about it right at the end, I advocate, and if you have any questions, just type them in, we're almost done. I advocate the concept of a mastermind group, and it can be something informal that you do with friends. I used to do this when I ran my accounting practice. I had a group of like-minded accountants. We were all similar size, but what we do is meet once a month and we talk about, you know, what headaches do we have, and we'd share ideas that each of us had used in order to share them. So the staffing alternative, I'm going to skip over this because I think it's important, but it's something we can come back to another day. The traditional model, I'll just point out, is big office, lots of staff, high overhead. The virtual model, which is one I love, is nominal overhead. You can be 100% virtual. A lot of employees work from home. I'm seeing some very successful accounting firms coming out where they've got 20, 30 staff and they don't actually have a physical office. Now, obviously, if you've got a lease and you've got lots of staff, you can't go right from traditional to one of these others, but something you can plan. Okay, so we have a question, a good to-do list where employees can put ideas to a specific task and assign different employees that task. Asana or Trello would be two of those. So let me just paste. Tad, would you mind pasting links for Asana and Trello?
I can do that.
Okay. So the key to cloud is we want to reduce overhead, we want to manage our workflow, we want to do good internal training, we want good communication, and we need to have documentation and scheduling. So I talked earlier about Jetpack workflow. It's good for managing to-dos and tasks. Asana and Trello are two other options. So what I'm going to do, and then we'll wrap up here, is we'll open it up for questions, and then very quickly I just want to mention something about mastermind coaching. Okay, so if you have questions, you can also email service@cpethink.com, or you can send me an email, jeff@dreampractice.ca. So mastermind group, this is something near and dear to my heart. As I've mentioned at the start and a little bit throughout, I've been part of many groups in the past, informal, where I set them up. The advantage for me was objectivity. We worked together, we came up with best practices, we did some strategic planning. There's a mentoring and accountability we had to answer to the group. Some of the things I do, and I've created my own mastermind group. It's a virtual group. What we're looking for is progressive, growth-oriented accountants who want to make changes. And what we do is we start with goal setting. We talk about who our ideal client is. We develop a niche. We work on marketing strategies. We talk about pricing, and we help create sales processes. So what we do, and again, we'll offer this if you have to run, you can drop off, but we do a 1 monthly one-on-one session. We do a monthly educational session like this where we'll share some ideas. And then we have group sessions twice a month where people meet and exchange ideas. And then we have an online forum where we can keep that conversation going. And one of the things I think that's great value, we share best practices with blueprints and checklists. And the group focuses on marketing and sales processes. And what we're doing is we want a 3-month commitment. The idea is if you commit to the 3 months, you can get a lot of results. So we're running the program July through September. And if you're interested, there's a link right here, dpmastermind.eventbrite.ca. And links also on the top of the slide. What we're doing, it's limited to 24 people. We're going to start in July. And as a special offer to TAD's community, the CPE Think people, we're offering the first 10 who sign up after today's webinar the special price of $375. If you're not in the first 10, the regular investment is $750 a month. We'll be raising that in October, but if you'd like to learn more or you want to just find out about it, you can email me, jeff@dreampractice.ca.
Okay, super.
Okay. Now, to wrap up, I am a teacher at heart. Teaching without action is useless. So I have an action steps in the slide. One must read, in my opinion, is a book called Quantum of Paperless by Roman Kepchik. And he surveys the top tier firms and every year does an update on how you can go paperless. So the other thing, make sure you assess your business, take a look at your workflow, and find areas that you can improve. And that is it. Thank you all for your time and attention. If you have any questions, I'll stick around for a couple of minutes. Otherwise, I hope to see you on the next round.
Super. Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I will put all the links that we have in the chat box in the course material on CPE Think on your when you take the course, along with the recording of this video as soon as we get it rendered and uploaded. So you can go back and look at it, look at different pieces. If you do have any questions, feel free to contact Jeff. His contact information is on there. And as always, you can always contact us at cpethink.com or service@cpethink.com or on either one of the red tabs on any page on our website. Any questions before we wrap it up? Anybody have anything they would like to know about? If you have any questions on Freshdesk, I mean, we use Freshdesk quite a bit. Feel free to ask Jeff or I or any of the other tools that he's mentioned. Some of them I use and can speak directly. Other I will definitely suggest that you talk to Jeff, as he knows those much, much better than I do. So anything else, gang? Okay. Again, get your certificate of completion by taking the 1-question final exam. Answering true, you attest that you attended this webinar, and it will generate your certificate and make that available to you. Anything else, let us know at either place, either Jeff's or mine, and we will get back to you right away and get that taken care of. So thanks again, Jeff. Any closing words?
No, thank you very much, Tad. Thank you to the audience. And all I can say is look at what you do, figure out what's repetitive, and find a way to automate it. And if you don't know how, check online, because I guarantee somebody has. This is about freeing up our time so we can have more time to be with friends and family, of course, but also quality time with our clients.
Absolutely. And do join us next week. We're going to do marketing and networking. Same time next week, Thursday at noon Eastern. So hope to see everybody then. Thanks again for attending. Thanks, Jeff, for presenting, and we will see everyone next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.